Yo, so what's going on, Battlefielders? My name is Pone. It's 4 in the morning and I wanted to make a commentary because I've been excited, I've been thinking about it a little bit, and I've been wanting to express it and send it out your way. So here's your little care package for the day. I wanted to talk a little bit more about this because I really got my mind a little tinkering a bit. I started to think a little bit more and getting more in depth with one of the ideas I had for my Battlefield 4 wish list. Now, I wasn't happy with a lot of the response on that video. There were a lot of people that clinged to one thing they disliked and did nothing but trash it, trash COD, trash the idea. And I can understand why. I guess the biggest concern was people misunderstood and they think that I want kill streaks in Battlefield, and that was just definitely not the case. And the other part of the people thought about secondary grenades, and then they were like, oh, it's too much like Call of Duty. I mean, everybody's mind just went everywhere, and you could tell the fear of the Battlefield community is their game to turn out like Call of Duty, which is understandable. Nobody wants their game to turn out like Call of Duty, and for somebody to think that I would want that, guys, understand, I left Call of Duty. I risked my channel, I risked my job, leaving Call of Duty to come to Battlefield. When you find a new girlfriend, you don't want her to be like your ex, right? Seriously, come on. Seriously, guys, seriously. Think about that a little bit. So people overreact to some of that stuff sometimes. So I decided to elaborate on one of my favorite ideas out of that, and that was one of the game types I suggested to you guys. So I have 3 game types that I want to send your way, and I want you guys to tell me what you think about them, if you would be extremely, excited about them. Tell me if they're boner approved, guys. You gotta tell me. It's just a trigger words. Now, I got 3 of them. 2 of them are mine, and 1 was actually from a subscriber. One that was so simple that I overlooked it, and I was like, wow, why did I not think of that? It'd be so fucking awesome. And I don't know, it could have been in a previous Battlefield that I'm not aware of, but I thought it was an incredible idea. There have been things similar to it before, but in a game like this, not so much. So, we're going to start off with the one that I mentioned. I mentioned a double-sided rush. And it's basically the concept of, imagine Rush being available where it's not only a priority to defend, but also attack for both sides. Now, what I wanted to encourage was people to, try to stick to that and try to gain a little momentum. The downfall is if you make it so long, like your standard Rush, but there's 4 sets, 5 sets of MCOMs or something, then it's a game of Medal of Honor. No, it's no longer a game of tug of war. Not Medal of Honor. It's a game of momentum. And it's no longer a game about tug of war, because all it takes is, if somebody's strong enough and they take the first 2 objectives, then the entire other team is basically in defense mode, trying to stop them from taking the 3rd, and then they'll never progress and take the 1st or 2nd on the other side. So I thought a nice way to do that would to make it be that both sides only have 2 sets of MCOMs to go for, so that they're never too far out of the game, you know what I mean? It's always tangible. There's something both of them can do, because some people have bad starts, and I feel they should have, a chance to, redeem themselves. So I started thinking on that a little bit. And I like the idea of it. I mean, people could simply parachute down in one middle area and just unleash on each other, but still try to, pass the defenses and get the MCOMs. Or they could simply spawn at the most recent defensive MCOM and make their way across. Either way, there's going to be a heavy middle ground in the middle. You're going to have to battle, try to lock that down, especially if there's armor involved. And I thought 2-sided rush was incredible. You had to find a way to communicate, great teamwork, designate squads, for, certain things to do, whether or not it was attacking, defending. I thought it was an incredible idea. Rush is my favorite game type, so I would love to see something like that happen. The other one, though, this is the one that the one of the subscribers recommended, which I really appreciated, people that put in their own ideas about Battlefield 4 in that comments. I really appreciate this guy. He was talking about Squad Conquest. Now, I started to think about this a little more. I'm like, well, we got Squad, Rush, and it's kind of cool, I guess. You've got your different things. You had Squad, Deathmatch, stuff like that. So there's been things along the lines of that before. But Squad Conquest, I think this is a definite possibility, too, guys, if you think about it a little bit. And this is one that I really, really got excited for, because I started to think what happened. So you got your standard 16 teams, right? So, not 16 teams, but 16 players. You got 4 in each squad. You're sitting there, you're looking down at it, and you got basically 4 teams. With these 4 teams of 4 people, put 3 objectives on the map. Make it like Conquest, where one team really has to try their hardest. Teams can be locked out and have no objectives, and it becomes very, very competitive. And teamwork comes into play. You got to have enough faith and communication between your team to possibly leave 1 or 2 people defending while another one tries to take over another point. And then it could be a simple match between 2 versus 4, or even 2 versus 6 if there's other people trying to take over that objective. And I thought that would be extremely competitive. It'd be extremely fun and fast-paced. And I know that's not necessarily something somebody wants, but I thought it'd be cool. And I mean, even if you wanted to develop it out, and I know it's called Squad Conquest or something like that, but if you had 32 man, you could still have 3 objectives, 4 teams still. and just have 2 squads per each team. You know, you can have your standard red, blue, green, yellow teams, and they could have 8 people apiece, and you can like have one team designated for, you know, defending or something. So you can still have 8 people per team, but I thought that'd be a cool idea. I really did. So the other one I'd like would be a simple form of attack and defend. Now this would be a heavily customized game type, something that I would like to see because it was extremely tactical. Now it could go one of 2 ways. You could have a 1 life to live, or keep it as is, because I believe everything is okay. I mean, if you maintain the same amount of presence and the same amount of people on a map, you know, infinite respawns are okay. Possibly even tickets. That's what would make this like a unique version of Rush. But there's only one set of MCOMs. Now, I want to explain to you guys something about this America's Army. Now, it was basically a 1 life to live. Therefore, people had to play tactically. They had to communicate a little more. It was very competitive. Obviously, if you've got 1 life to live, you want to make as minimal mistakes as possible. You want to take it slow if you want to. A lot of people do not like the slow pace. Some do. I mean, coming from a Battlefield crowd where people are much more patient than the average, like, Call of Duty player or something, that's understandable. But a lot of people may not like the idea of only having 1 life, which would be okay because, I mean, if there's tickets involved, people would still want to be, you know, a little smart. And, it was the idea was there was a map called Pipeline, and this is where I got my idea from. If you guys have ever played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Pipeline was basically a warehouse facility with an outside spawn. Basically, everybody spawned in deployment, just this little box, kind of ran out and tried to make their way into the warehouse. Now, the warehouse had 2 kinds of objectives for you to seize and win the game. What you had to do is you had to either make it to the main control panel, which is really, really up, and it's actually basically in the defense's spawn. It was up in the highest part of the map, in the highest part of the warehouse, and it was very hard to get in there because the room only had about 3 or 4 entry points, but you were vulnerable from rafters and everything like this. So people could set up a nice defense and kind of clog you out. Now, I like that idea. You know, you had that master in game. If you had to, and you know there's 1 or 2 guys left, you didn't have time to get to the other objective, do that. So if it's a matter of, you know, running down tickets or time, this would be a great game type. Now, the other set is there were 3 little valves, if you will. You had to turn off these valves, and if you shut off all 3 of the valves, they were located in random places. There was one down in, they were basically down in the sewers of the map. And these tunnels were tight, like they would be in, like, the second set of MCOMs in Operation Metro. So there were really, really tight-knit areas where you had to play tactically. You had to use smoke. You had to do this. You had to nade. You had to tube your corners, stuff like that. And I know it sounds like a bad idea to talk about tubing, but, I mean, you had to do what you needed to do to get out of those tight situations. And that's something you'll see a lot of. And I like this idea because it was your standard attack and defend, where you have a castle or a warehouse where you had to lock down. And with the abilities of Battlefield behind them, you could set up armor to try to breach walls. You could set up, you know, anti-aircraft and shit outside. You can have, you know, the big gunners out there. You could set up turrets, stuff like that. I mean, you could have any sort of thing set up the way you wanted to, and there would be a way to defend. But you also had to understand that there was 2 different ways to lose, and I would like to see, you know, like 1 major way to lose and a couple little ways to lose. And if everything came together and, you know, one was a priority, like, it'd be incredible. So I would like to see some sort of an attack and defend, and I know that sounds in-depth and really, really challenging, and how they're going to do that across all these maps. But I've always liked that kind of concept, where you had to make your way to one final castle, whether or not you got to clear a battlefield, or you spawn right outside and you got to get inside and try to stay inside. I mean, it could get very, very complicated very, very quick. And I always like the idea of something along the lines of that. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Remember to leave some suggestions of your own. If there's any game types that you could think of that would be cool to add into the game, do so. Let me know what you think about these. And remember to check the description down below. Check out all the cool links to Twitter, the Facebook. Support it on Reddit. And remember to drop a like and favorite. It helps out a lot as